Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.
Hello and welcome to another super special episode of The Sound of Money with me, Santosh Sirur. And well, we are now into its 100th plus series. And kickstarting our 100th plus series is a very, very special guest joining in from Mumbai. She's Miss Shital Kakkar Mehra. She's an executive presence coach and she's the co-founder of Katalyst. And to her credit, she's an award-winning, in fact, best-selling author and some amazing books from her. Executive Presence, the Poise Formula for Leadership. This is one of her books, and equally amazing and best-selling one is Business Etiquette, which is a guide for Indian professionals. And we're going to cover these two books in two very special episodes with Miss Shital. Hi, Shital, and welcome to the Sound of Money.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Absolute honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Most welcome, Shital. Really good to have you. You know, typically my show normally has topics like mutual funds, banking, currencies, etc. But what really the underlying is people, right? They interact with in the organization, third parties, and now of course the role of India, where you even interact with other countries. I think the most important thing probably is soft skills, right? And they are possibly the hardest actually to learn. And it's knowing our education system, where now there's some bit of a difference being made.
Yeah.
Previously, education system didn't really have soft skills. In fact, it was not even known to anyone. It's only when you ended up in multinational organizations that the importance of it really we got to know. But it was a little bit late, right? And it then depended on an individual's attitude and approach, how one really started to learn about it. So my first question, what are your thoughts and how can one actually, Shital, overcome those challenges? Especially when, you know, it's not forming a part of one's formal education system.
You know, it's very interesting, but soft skills, I was reading an article which said that artificial intelligence, AI, will pretty much take over every job, every function. But the only skill that they can't really take over at this stage, I don't know what the robots of the next version would look like, but they cannot build relationships, they cannot interact on a one-on-one basis, and they definitely cannot understand finer nuances of human behavior. So I feel this is a skill that is needed for everybody. It's nothing to do with the industry or the job function. I have spoken to leading doctors, architects, consultants, lawyers, corporate professionals, CSR heads. Everybody needs to know how to communicate effectively, how to present the best version of themselves, and also how to build relationships which create win-win across the world. So it's a great time to be an Indian. Never in the history of, as far as we can remember, has India been so central on the world stage. Today, Indians are traveling, negotiating, communicating, buying and selling companies. So yes, it's a great time to be an Indian. Yes, the academic system does not focus on communication skills, how to articulate a thought, and how to present it so that people understand it. But honestly, this is a skill and not a trait. A trait is something that you're born with. A skill makes it learnable. So it's very learnable, and anybody can learn and pick it up if they focus.
Wonderful. In fact, you know, I do come across a lot of, when I interview candidates, when I do meet other people, even the sense of dressing, for example, is not there. I mean, I remember once I interviewed a candidate on a Saturday. Now, like me being, I mean, Saturday is off for us, but I made that a point because the candidate was busy between on Monday and a Friday. And I went in pretty semi-formals, right? But I still went in semi-formals. But the candidate came wearing a t-shirt and jeans. I was like, wow, this is, you know, he said, it's a Saturday. So the sense of, you know, as they say, dressing is, you know, dressing for success is important. You know, how can this visual image make a difference, Sheetal, in having that edge over others? Because dressing can make or break, you know, careers, right? And it's not about the promotion interviews or the job interviews, but it's even in your day-to-day functioning, in your BAU, one should be pretty decently dressed. What are your thoughts on that?
See, I feel packaging matters. Companies spend millions and billions of dollars each year on understanding how their goods are packaged and perceived by their clients. But individuals don't give it that same level of importance. Now, people get confused when you say dressing with the word formal. It's nothing to do with a business suit.
Yeah.
It's not about formality. First of all, let's agree that when you present a neat, polished, impeccably groomed version of yourself, the first thing that you signal is credibility. It inspires a trust factor. Also, it establishes your visual identity, which is very important because people know before you have spoken, your clothes have spoken. You enter a room before you have even uttered a single word. And humans are judgmental, nothing to do with culture. Psychologists call it thin slicing. Based on condensed sections of information, we are very quick to pass judgment. Now, people have already passed judgment. Can you change the first impression? Yes, you can. But I always think to myself, why do you need to? Just put your best foot forward. Secondly, for our young listeners, the Gen Z and the millennials, you live in a very hyper visual world. You're constantly looking at posts of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn before even you have read their comments. So for you, the visual is very important and image matters.
Yeah.
Now, what to wear based on your industry, on your job function. And yes, there is a personal style. So nobody has to look like clones of each other. I agree. But you know something, 80% is still driven by your career choice, and 20% you can layer it with your personal style. Lawyers have to look like lawyers, bankers have to look like bankers, right? Creative people in industries definitely have to look creative. Their creativity has to be apparent even in their clothes, right? So if creative professionals dress like bankers, there's a problem. And equally, if bankers dress like creative professionals, there's a problem. Also, there are two more elements I want to cover. There's a biochemistry angle as well. Research has shown that when you know you're looking good, your body releases these wonderful hormones that make you feel very good and confident. If you walk into a meeting and somebody says, wow, that's a very smart jacket you're wearing, trust me, next time you have an important presentation or performance appraisal, you will pick up that jacket because you know it makes you look your best. Also,
Yeah.
clothes even have a psychological angle to it. You know, there's a very critical element to it. If you look well groomed, people assume that you're serious, you're capable, you're professional, and you mean business. So it's not just about you. Your visual resume matters at a biochemistry level, at a psychological level, at a physical level, and yes, on money control, even at a financial level.
Absolutely. So well put, Shital. Actually, especially the fact when you mentioned, right, that you know, the dressing makes so much of a difference, especially your confidence levels, right, in meetings. Many a times people are not so cared or caring much about the dress sense. And it kind of you can make out, you can see that for yourself when in those meetings or in those conference calls. Even in conference calls, they may be on conference calls, maybe working from home. But if you're too casual about it, you can make out that they are not so serious, right? And it's a huge thing.
You know, the geeks of the Silicon Valley
Hmm.
little bit change the perspective. People said, oh, look at them wearing shorts, t-shirt, chappals, hoodies.
Yeah.
Now, but
Yeah.
you know something? They are tech billionaires. They made their money on fantastic innovation in the technology segment, right? Now, if you can come up with an idea like a Facebook or an Uber or an Airbnb or a Tesla, trust
Yeah.
me, you can wear what you want, because of the simple reason that what really sells is your technologically superior product or service. But
Yeah.
corporate professionals who are in a professional services business, you're in a manufacturing business, you're climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Trust me, visual resume makes a difference. Very frequently, I hear leaders have to
Yeah.
look like leaders. And many
Absolutely.
times, many
Yeah.
promotions have been denied because they
Yeah.
will always say, he's technically very good, intellectually very good, but the board feels he doesn't look like a leader. So,
True. True. I fully agree with you. And here we are not talking about Western dress culture, right? We're talking about a very, very simple and yet elegant sari, or that yet, the Indian wear that male also wears, right? And it's
Yeah.
not about the traditional day in office only. A
No.
lot of times it makes a huge, huge difference.
And yes, you can wear clothes. See, the best of everything is available in our country.
Hmm.
And the visual matters. Even companies understand that. You know,
Yeah,
how packaging matters. You walk into any luxury goods store and they make sure that they package the goods well. Now,
yeah,
secondly, people never buy anything expensive from poorly
yeah,
dressed people or
yeah.
cheaply dressed
Absolutely.
people.
Yes,
So, in a
absolutely.
corporate journey, I think it's important.
I can't agree more. Sheetal, with India, as you rightly say, it's the best time to be in India, and it's the kind of opportunities we have in India. With more and more GCCs coming in, the global capability centers, and more international businesses setting up shops here, even the opportunity for us to travel abroad for official engagements has increased immensely, and it's been happening. But what are those key social skills one needs to be aware of, and that can make a big difference in one's personal growth, Sheetal?
You know, with GCCs coming in, and increasingly we're going to have more and more GCCs coming in, it's a wonderful opportunity for Indians to showcase their talent, to interact with people in different parts of the world, and of course, go up the corporate ladder because the opportunity increases, right?
Yeah,
So it is a great time. But yes, there are some skills that we definitely need to learn. One I would say would be socially intelligent. What is social intelligence? What is your cultural quotient? Do you understand your counterpart's culture, whether it's an internal or external client? Now, you
yeah,
interact with people from different parts of the world. You have a perspective on Indian culture, but what is your idea of the counterpart's culture?
mm,
So HBR had come up with this wonderful concept called CQ. So you have
mm,
IQ, you have EQ, but today's managers also need CQ, which is your cultural quotient. So, how well do you understand their culture and how can you create a win win so that you can build relationships? Also, executive presence is needed in very diverse settings. You know, you could be having a coffee with somebody, you could be having a meal with somebody. Sometimes there are socio business interactions. Sometimes you are in a very big room of 1,000 people, it's a global meet. So,
mm,
your executive presence is on display in diverse settings. One, of course, you need to understand conversations. That's the second element. So,
yeah,
cultural quotient, how to start a conversation, a few acceptable small talk topics. And small
yeah,
talk topics can be learned. There's no
mm,
rocket science to it. But give it some thought, people in that part of the world, how do they open conversations? Little bit read the room and see what is happening around you.
yeah,
Learn a few things and go so that you can crack the first 15-20 seconds, which puts the other person at ease. Because
yeah,
at that stage, if you say something that is not socially agreeable or acceptable, it can definitely end the conversation.
mm,
Third thing I would say is have a world view. What is the world, your view on the current maybe geopolitical situation, or your view
mm,
on the way on some global sports or the
yeah,
latest events that have happened? So little bit of reading, understanding, and having a point of view becomes important to have an intellectual conversation.
mm,
Fourthly, I would say listen.
yeah.
Most
I
people
think
don't
listening is the
listen.
most important thing.
You know, instead of being interesting, I would say be interested. Most
Yeah,
people love to talk. If you can
yeah,
get them to talk, you are anyway in business. So,
yeah,
for all our listeners who are looking to have global careers, I would say think global
mm,
and connect authentically. You do not have to compromise on your authenticity just because you're a global Indian. And of course,
yeah,
understand the context. So,
yeah,
um, listen, see, hear,
mm, mm,
watch, and look around the room and see how people are behaving. And at a very basic level, humans like to connect with people.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
already is a wonderful thing.
yeah,
But how do you
absolutely.
maximize that impact? And how do
Yeah,
you build connects? That's very important.
yeah.
So,
In fact, that brings me to the next question, because a lot of times young professionals, even students, right, who are looking up for jobs, always complain. my CV is good. I've got some great internship experience. I have good experience in this organization. But what is missing, I think, Sheetal, is the skill of networking. You know, I think smart working is important, right? It's not just work. A lot of times, I mean, we come across people who are working very, very hard. I mean, we can see that. But what is possibly missing are their networking skills. It's not that they don't have the time, but they have to make time, right, for networking. What are your thoughts on networking? Because networking can really lead to some really, as they say, then you can always have that scope to improve your mingling quotient.
See, people look at the word work in the word network and they say,
Yeah.
oh, it's work. Well,
Mm,
let me tell you one thing, your net worth is your networks. So
mm,
if you look at it differently and don't focus on the word work in the word network, life will
yeah.
become easy. Secondly, visibility increases opportunity. If you're working for a large corporation, or you're working for a GCC, or you're working for an IT company, whatever your organization, your business may be, how many people know you? What is your visibility within the organization? That is going to determine promotions. It's a well documented and well researched fact that promotions are driven by visibility within the organization and outside. So, how
Yeah.
visible are you and how do people know you? Who knows you? But more importantly than who knows you is who remembers you.
Mm,
What has been your interaction with them? I
yeah.
have a proprietary formula called the Poise formula, which I've
Mhm.
used and also written the book on. If I was to look at any of the letters, for this question of yours, I would look at three letters. I would say the letter P is perception. You're doing great work at work, but how are you being perceived? What do others think of your work? That's very important. And people very frequently tell me, oh, my work will speak for itself. Work is speaking. Boss is not listening.
Yeah.
Right? There's too much noise around your boss. I would also like to use the letter I, which is your
Mm,
influencer skills. Now,
mm,
one thing is for sure, people who are well networked, they have the ability to express their ideas well, and
mm,
also their ideas travel well because people can comprehend, understand, support them. So that's influencer skill. So if you're well networked, people will take your ideas seriously. You will have
mm,
many more chances to showcase your ideas. And the E, I would say, is your engagement presence. But to me, if I apply the word network to engagement presence, I would say, you know something, your network is also your safety net.
yeah.
Because careers today are not linear.
True. Yeah.
So things change, things evolve, companies get sold, bought out, divisions shut down, and suddenly, you have many times when two companies merge, there's only one role. So we really don't know in today's fast changing, evolving world what the next day, month is going to look like. So
Yeah.
build your networks because that is your safety net. If you can pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and they can open doors for you, but you know something, view it as an investment.
Mm,
Networking,
yeah.
I'm going to draw a parallel with your industry.
Mm,
Networking is like banking.
yeah.
First, you make an investment, build a credit balance, then only the bank will allow you to withdraw. Similarly, in networking, build your credit balance. Most people enter a network thinking, what can I pull out of it? But what have you
Mm,
invested in it?
agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. Can't agree more, Shivam. In fact, with the Gen Zs, right, another thing organizations are facing when you already have, the staff who was probably born in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, along with these Gen Zs, there's that wavelength difference that's coming up. Uh, there are times when uh, organizations actually tell that, oh, Gen Z is going to join in our department, so better be quote unquote careful, right? In whatever sense. And that leads to a lot of decorum issues, right? Especially, are there any, mannerisms, and these can make a difference because the Gen Zs, as they are the Insta generation, they also have this unfortunate bit about the the insta thoughts and mindsets and the moods that probably can set in, and they say, oh, why should I work late? And we've seen that with so much of discussions around it on social media about working hours, work life balance, etc. I mean, in our generation, work life balance was the last
It's not
thing.
discussed.
It's never ever even discussing that was like, oh, that means you don't seem to be interested in a career in the first
Correct.
place.
You
So
know,
how does
yeah.
one, yeah, it's a very challenging thing, both even for the Gen Zs to adjust and even for the existing guys to adjust. What are your thoughts, Sheetal, on this?
See, it's a great time because of the fact that we have 5 generations of Indians working together. So
Hmm.
it's become a multi-generational workplace. And
Yeah,
every generation has its strengths and gaps. So you have baby boomers, you have Gen X, you have Gen Y, you have millennials, you have Gen Z, and now Alpha is going to join. So we don't know what that would look like. But yes, now the good news is that every generation has a strength. So the strength of the Gen Zs would be that yes, they are not scared to speak up. Two, they are very good with technology. Three, they also believe in work life balance. Four, they are very focused on their own fitness and their mental health. So, their physical, mental health they prioritize, which is phenomenal because other generations before them did not prioritize any of that. But the gaps could possibly be that at times they confuse decorum for stiffness.
hmm,
But let me tell you one thing, manners never go out of fashion. Because when people behave well, first of all, people around you can sense credibility. It
yeah,
also shows discipline. It also shows attention to detail, competence, and a very critical word called respect. So when I talk to youngsters, I always tell them that if you show up on time, one, it shows that you are on top of your game and you're in control of your life. But two, it also shows that you respect me and my time. So it works both ways. So, all the young listeners, decorum amplifies your personal brand. Don't confuse decorum for stiffness, but the fact is that it's needed for the world to move. And it shows discipline, attention to detail, high engagement. I'm interested, I'm invested.
yeah.
Multiple silent signals are sent out before you've even opened your mouth. So the fact is, decorum is here and important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Sheetal, my last question on this episode is all about, a little bit of informality does step in, does come in when you are in your office, in your organization, especially, coffee table conversations or
Yes.
even elevator conversations, which can sometimes really challenge the expectations of public decency. Uh, and it, of course, can, a lot of office gossip is being discussed sometimes without really knowing who's next to you in that elevator or maybe at the coffee table. What are your thoughts? What are your experiences, guys have shared with you as a part of your training sessions?
See,
That's
I
mine
call
says it all.
I call it in between moments of business,
Hmm,
right? So all business is not done sitting at your desk
yeah.
or on a phone or an email. A lot
Hmm,
of business is done at a coffee, while sharing a coffee, at an
yeah.
offsite, at a team drinks, at an office party, at a client
Yeah.
site, whatever it may be. But at that stage also, to remember that you're creating impact and your executive
Hmm,
presence is definitely on display, and so are
yeah.
your soft skills and your ability to build relationships. So,
Hmm,
a few do's would be remember that, but a few don'ts which I see people doing it out of purely ignorance. There's not intention. Like I always say, don't overshare. Confidentiality is a very critical element. You don't know who is listening and who is aligned in such a way. So build awareness, look around you, and don't just
hmm,
share things. Of course, don't troll anyone online
hmm,
because
yeah.
online presence is also very important. All the comments that you like, post, reshare, a simple like is also an endorsement. So, what is your personal brand online? And is it
Hmm,
synchronized with your professional brand? That's very important. Otherwise,
yeah.
stay anonymous. Don't
Hmm,
rant, whether
yeah.
online or offline. any kind of cynical behavior. Too much conversation on religion and politics doesn't work in the corporate world. Learn to little bit self-promote.
Yeah.
You are the CEO
Absolutely.
of your own personal brand, and brands need promotion, right? Whichever brand, even if you're a global leader, even if you're Coca-Cola, and you've been the number one cola for the last so many decades, but you still
Yeah.
have a marketing budget and you're still promoting, right? So brands need promotion, brands need visibility, and honestly, brands also need investment. View yourself as a brand and invest in yourself. Your mental
Absolutely.
health, your physical health, your attire, your accessories. If you feel that you're poor at public speaking or communication skills, or if you feel that there's some skill that you can learn which your organization is not offering, learn it at your own cost.
Yeah.
Because the ROI is going to be phenomenal. And that is something. So if you view yourself as a brand, see yourself as an athlete. Athletes make so many investments in themselves, their fitness, their nutrition, their physiotherapy, their speed, or whichever sport they are in, their clothes, their shoes.
Yeah.
So view yourself as an athlete, and then what are the investments that you are going to make? The rule is very simple. Treat every interaction as a soft stage. It's not performative, but be intentional at least. That makes a difference.
Absolutely. On that very, very positive note, Shital, thank you so much for being on this first episode of the series that we intend to have on soft skills and personality enhancement, I would say. And of course, in our next series, we're going to talk about the leadership levels where there is an equal amount of attention to detail required when it comes to soft skills. But for now, Shital Kakkar Mehra, thank you so much for being with me on this Sound of Mind.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.